Hello everyone, welcome. It's T-1 day until Wesmageddon. I think that's pretty much how we're saying it. I'm Michael Bailey. Paddy Davitt is with me. We're fresh from Colney, fresh-faced, and all that sort of stuff. Ahead of the penultimate game of the season, of course, at Carrow Road, Norwich City against Leeds. Although I feel like I'm forgetting that there's going to be a game, Paddy, because we're a little bit wrapped in the Wesley Hoolahan stuff. But please get in touch with us. We'll be with you for the next 15-20 minutes or so. So get your questions, comments, more Wesley Hoolahan tributes. I know it feels like we've done them all week, but anything else you want to say, I'll try and follow those on here, and we'll discuss them. Let us know where you're watching from, so you can make us either jealous or feeling thankful, one or the other. Lots to get through. We got to speak to Daniel, we got to speak to Wes today, didn't we, Pad? It is all about the little Irishman. So how would you like to kick this off? Because it was lovely getting to sit in front of him and speak to him for what's probably going to be the last time involving chairs.
Yeah. I think he'll probably do some media after the game. And by that stage, I'd imagine he'll be fairly emotional. He said himself there'll be a few tears because it is shaping up to be quite a special afternoon, really. Certainly more atmosphere, I think, than we would have had for the battle for 12th, that is for sure. And he deserves it, you know. I mean, we don't need to go back through everything that's been said, written, spoken, video, whatever, in the last 6 or 7 days. As Farke said, that's the only topic in town, and it would just be nice. Doesn't always happen in football, but to get the perfect send-off, you know, you wouldn't want a damp squib of Leeds coming here and, as I've just discovered, what they did when they last came here. They won 3-2. It was a stoppage time winner from Rolando Vieri. That would put a little bit of a dampener on it, but you know, it isn't really, I suppose, about the result, but it would just add to the, I think, what's going to be quite a carnival atmosphere. Wes himself talked about 40 family and friends, I think, coming from near and far. One friend in particular is going to adorn Carrow Road with 10 tricolours, so look out for those. And we've obviously got into the spirit of it with our Wes Hoolahan face mask. Yeah, we'll get that plug in straight away.
Pete Raven, it seems to be clearing his desk, but he has promised us an appearance in his Wes Hoolahan mask.
Yeah,
so
well,
watch out for that one.
I wouldn't hold my breath, but there'll be plenty of them in attendance tomorrow. So, yeah, I mean, all in all, it's all about Wes tomorrow, and I get the sense, you know, from that set of players, they will be absolutely desperate to send them off in fitting fashion. So I don't think they'll lack for motivation, which might not necessarily have been the case if it had been two teams effectively, which is what it is, a mid-table affair. Yeah, quite.
Daniel Farke made the point that all his players had been exercising their creative juices, getting out the scissors and the paints. Made it sound like it's been a colouring class for the week, which would of course be apt, given we know Wes Hoolahan loves a colouring in book. But yeah. So clearly, as you said, Pat, it's going to mean a lot to all the players this week. It was good speaking to Wes. I was initially wondering, well, what's he going to say? What we're going to get out of it? What I think we can say is he's not too sure where his future is going to lie at the moment, although I'm sure he's got a couple of ideas where he'd like it to. You can hear pretty much all the key points that Wesley Hoolahan had to say over at PinkUn.com now. You can read it and listen to it. Did say he's probably going to be back in the area, and this idea that he might like to sort of be working at the club one way or another, and that his son's a Norwich fan and he'll be coming back to watch games. And are those things lip service, or you think
if he says it, that's what you take him at his word, and whether the club have quite that plan for him or not, time will tell. You know, these things tend to never develop as you might hope if you're Wes, but there's certainly an affection for the area, and I can quite conceivably see him. Okay, the next 2 years is clearly a footballing adventure, as he called it, and that might take him further afield. But I think ultimately he strikes me as another one of these long line of ex-players who will settle their family in Norfolk and enjoy all that the area has to offer. So if he was to be based in Norfolk when he hangs up the boots, then why wouldn't you want a guy like that on the payroll? You know, in any capacity. He talked about the coaching side, maybe even scouting. You know, Daniel today has spoken about the massive impact he had on James Maddison, for example, similar type of player, and all the young lads. You know, in terms of the huge respect they had for him, and when he spoke, they listened. Why wouldn't you want to tap into that knowledge source in whatever form that takes? Because there's a guy who clearly has a huge amount of affection. He talked about how his lad is a Norwich fan now, and he's almost obligated to bring him to Carrow Road in the years to come. So, you know, A, the affection, B, the status he has in the game, and C, what a wonderful player he was. Use him, you know, use him. It's all about, we keep getting told about, this is all now about developing young talent. Well, if you can't learn off a guy like Wesley Hoolahan, who are you going to learn off? And
there was a nice little line from when you asked Daniel about the impact that Wes had in the last few years on James Maddison and players like that, how he was so good at having a quiet word in people's ears and saying the right thing at a good time to help them develop, and giving them tips, and that sort of more subtle coaching you sometimes get from your teammates rather than the staff, I suppose.
And you can imagine, if you're James Maddison, to have a guy like Wesley Hoolahan who's played club and country now, we have to say, you know, when you know, he lit up Euro 2016. It's not that long ago that he was operating at that level. We all know how many years he was in the Premier League. You'd be silly if you, and James Maddison, one thing he isn't, he's a very intelligent lad, very mature for his age. He will, I would imagine, have soaked up every experience he can from Wesley Hoolahan, because, as I say, they play in a very similar area of the pitch. And I don't think it's a coincidence that possibly part of the reason James has had such an impact this season.
See Ian Clark with his coat. So what are you doing there? No one can see you, Clarky. It's too late now. Too late now.
We'll see it tomorrow. But yeah, if you're Madders, then why wouldn't you have you know, taken everything you can from the Wes Hoolahan experience? And yeah, as I say, to repeat myself, why wouldn't you want him involved down the line if he's available and he's willing to, you know, give some of that experience to the next generations moving forward?
Was it a slightly tricky presser for Daniel Farke in that regard? Because, I mean, some of his quotes that came out, I thought, on Monday, some fans were like, well, yeah, you know, blessed and all this to look after Wes, yet, you know, you hardly played him and he's off 12 months later. And, you know, Daniel said some wonderful things today, but likewise, I suppose he hasn't involved him as much, but I guess that's maybe just a circumstance of time, isn't it? Daniel Farke only got the 35-year-old version of Wes Hoolahan to deal with, and I suppose we've all seen this season as well. Wes has come on and it hasn't been as easy for him to affect games. He definitely has at times, but not maybe as often as we've been accustomed to.
You know, the reality of it is a lot of what we've discussed in recent days is his legacy, you know, what he did. You know, the brutal reality, time moves on for every footballer, and he's not the player he was, and James Maddison has taken the mantle, and before him it was Alex Pritchard. So that's the reality. And if you're Farke, you know, and Wes isn't quite the player he was, then well, why would you use him when you've got a young man there, and James Maddison, who clearly was impacting every game, maybe not down the stretch where it looks like a bit of fatigue has caught up with him by his own admission, but certainly for the bulk of this season, James Maddison is your go-to for that creative spark, and that's the reality. I don't have any issue at all with, you know, with his use of Wes Hoolahan this season, not over James Maddison. I mean, that's not even a debate, is it?
No, exactly not. Too true. Let's rattle through some of your messages. Thanks for those. Rachel Carter, evening guys, I'll be at the game tomorrow. Tissues at the ready, so gutted, really should have given Wes another season. Although it must be said that Wes himself said he felt it was the right time.
Yeah, I think both parties today, you got the sense that the timing is right. I think Farke couched it in terms of, yes, now he could influence games, albeit in slimmer measures. He could probably do that 6 months down the line, but if you gave him another year, another 2 years, do you want to be looking back and he should have gone 2 years ago, he should have gone a year ago? You know, you don't really go out on a good note, I think, and I think it feels like I sense both parties agree this is the right time to go.
Indeed. Katie Lee, this will be the first time I cry without getting promoted or relegated. Yeah, it's true. Well, at least you've got something to cry about. There we go, Katie. It could have been so dull. Chris Jennings, Farke rated Wes so much and hardly played him. Here goes one of those comments I was mentioning. Thanks, Chris. Neil Austin, let's hope the weather improves for tomorrow. Andy Evans, half of Ireland will be there. I don't think they'll all squeeze into Carrow Road, but there we go. Andy Lazzle, end of an era with Wes, could be sublime and occasionally infuriating, but always awesome indeed. So there is a game. There was some team news as well, brief though it was. Daniel is well aware that all his players went boxing yesterday. Seemed to quite enjoy taking that in. And B, Tom Trouble is fit and available.
Tom what?
Well, Tribal. Tom Tribal.
Okay, Tom Tribal.
Trouble.
You've probably got the right pronunciation.
Nah, I'm not German though, so there's probably a lot of German people who'd hear that going, what? Tom,
yeah,
TT.
It'd be nice, nice to see him. Yeah, he's fit and available. Checked a little bit earlier. Has not featured since the start of February. So, and all the way along this process, Farke said, hopefully the final game or two. Well, we're at that stage now. He sort of, in contrast to Wes, there is a guy who very much is a key figure moving forward into the new season. So I think he'd like to give him some game time. If not tomorrow, then definitely Sheffield Wednesday. And the other one, Zimmerman, another one in that category who missed Preston, but as we saw a day or two ago, is fighting fit, so he's available. Alex Tete is the one. Back problem, so not sure we'll see Tete tomorrow, and obviously, inevitably, that will prompt some to suggest, well, it could potentially be his last outing at Carrow Road in a Norwich shirt, but that was put to Farke today, and no decisions have been reached. We know the situation as it stands. The club would like to keep him. There's an offer on the table. It's nowhere near the offer or the contract he's currently on now. So, but you get the sense that he's moving to a conclusion, and maybe as soon as next week.
Yeah, we will see more on that to come from Daniel over the week, I'm sure. Indeed. I mean, he did sort of touch on the recruitment issues, didn't he? More widely. Daniel, and in terms of his forward options as well, without Wes and things like that. And there was interesting as well his stats about their season, I think, which, boiling it down, was basically they have created as many chances as anyone in the division. Couldn't
hit a barn door, I think, is what it boils down
pretty
to.
Much, yeah. Pretty damning. I mean, you'd like to think it would have been something that they would have. They've obviously been trying to improve it all season, but they haven't been able to. So, is that makes me wonder about the personnel in terms of their finishing abilities and things like that.
Pretty much every time he speaks to Farke on this topic now, he doesn't couch it in terms of the answers lie in the current squad. The answers lie outside the current squad. Again today, they need to find quality. Filtered through, of course, the financial reality, which is that they can't go out and write a blank cheque for 15 to 20 million for a striker or an attacking player in the summer. So words like creative were getting used again. Smart was a word we got today in terms of the transfer strategy, which translated means they're going to have to try and find goals for the price tags that don't bring guarantees. He's talked about you're going to have to take a few risks, and I think that's very much the case. They are not going to be able to go and buy the finished article, but hopefully somebody who potential, but not in, for me, in a Dennis Shrabeni type of potential, which is potentially going to be realised down the track. It needs to be somebody who can come in and score goals next season. Yeah,
absolutely. There's an interesting question, I suppose, on Saturday. We do know that Wes is going to be captain, so clearly he's going to start on tomorrow. It's loads going on. If you go in, get there early, there'll be plenty to take in, including the Player of the Season award as well. If Wes plays and Wes starts, who doesn't play, Pad? Because I guess Mad is his Player of the Season. Mo Leitner, you probably want to try and keep him sweet if you like him to hang around.
I think it could be Mario who misses out. I think
Mario.
I can see him. Bearing in mind, if we assume Tete isn't available, then 4-1 maybe. I think he clearly wants to get Hernandez back in the side, so Murphy he likes, obviously, on that side. Top end of the pitch will be interesting again. I mean, it seems to be leading towards Shrabeni instead of Oliveira, and that's further fuel for me. He's one in terms of this creativity in the market. Which effectively is going to mean, like last summer, they're going to have to sell to buy. So, if Oliveira isn't going to get a look in these next two games, then I think it's pretty clear to me that they want to move him on. So,
which is a tricky one, because I think Darren Huckabee made the point on the PinkUn show on Wednesday. If you played Nelson and he got a few goals, it didn't do something for his price tag, because at
that's
the moment he hasn't played for a while, he hasn't scored many.
That's a good point, yeah.
So that's an interesting one, really. Okay, what else have we got here? Carl Hawes, sign up Wes tomorrow in a player development role. Well, I think he's going on holiday to the States, I think, was his plan for the summer, so might have to wait on that one. Dan Fisher, any news on Matt Jarvis? I knew we'd get asked this. Not really, but it doesn't really matter now, does it? Should we wait until pre-season for Matt Jarvis? Because he's not going anywhere, I guess.
You're pretty sure?
Yeah, well, not that I know
hard to
of.
see. It's hard to see him moving on, yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
We don't know. But, I think he's about 24th on the list for old Matt at the moment. Andy Evans, Oliveira seems to have lost his rhythm for us. Almost looks like his mind is elsewhere. I mean, that is probably one of the key points. Leeds, finally, Paddy did ask Daniel about Leeds. Yeah. And as you rightly said, when Norwich played them earlier in the season, he was like, well, these guys are decent. They're going to really challenge. Yeah. And I know at the start of the season, I felt that this could even be their year, but... much like their pre-season tour arrangements, it all seems to have gone off to a rather strange tangent by the end of it.
Yeah, no, it's leaving Ellen Road. You thought these would be in the top 6, and that was December, but tailed off in a big way. The lad Christiansen, was it, departed. Heckingbottom's come in and hasn't had that immediate bounce you would have assumed could be the case, and I think there's a bit of unease whether he's the right man to take them forward. It does seem a bit of a cycle with that club. Who knows? But ultimately, the league table would tell you that at this stage of the season, much like Norwich, not been consistent enough. So the battle for 12th, let it commence.
The battle for 12th. Will Norwich finish above Ipswich? Daniel made sure he did mention that again this afternoon. It's very important to him, I get that impression. Steve Jones, any chance of under-23 players playing next season?
Which ones?
Well, this is it. I mean, I guess some of the guys who are away on loan could probably have played for the under-23s this year, and they'll be the ones who will come in, won't they? Ben Godfrey. Be interesting what happens with Carlton Morris, I suppose. And Louis Thompson's come up in conversation a little bit as well, hasn't he? Because he did the boxing. It'd be good if he gets a decent pre-season under his belt, because there is a player he's got to just prove he can play football again, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's horrendous, really, to do the same injury twice, and a bad injury at that. To do that twice, I think all bets are off, really, until you see him actually back on a football pitch. It's actually pertinent, because Leeds was that game I was talking about, right. The 3-2 game last time at Carrow Road when these two sides met. I think that's probably his best, albeit of a small sample, but that was his best game, and that was the game we thought, this kid has arrived now, and he's going to. Sadly for Tete, he looked like he was going to take his place in the side, but I think it was very soon after that when he did his Achilles in training and then relapsed, close to getting back into the mix again. So as far as that lad's concerned, he just needs to keep fit and start to play football.
I think we're going to wrap that up there, Pad. It's been a long week, and there's not much more we can say about Wes, certainly, until tomorrow when we all take our face masks. Pete's done a runner again, much like he did when we did the announcement on Monday. He is not reliable, that one, but don't mind. There will be face masks around of Wes Hoolahan's face. I'm not entirely sure how you procure them. Do you know, Pad? Somewhere around the outside of the ground?
I believe in the vicinity of the stadium you will be able to... Sorry, Mr. Lakey?
Oh, with the bags?
Yeah, the bags, yeah.
So, the goodie bags. You can buy them in the goodie bags, so... Fantastic value. I think there's a packet of crisps in there as well, isn't there? A bottle of water, chocolate bar.
There's everything, including the paper, but
there is a paper.
It's the paper that people don't tend to bother with. So what does that tell you?
There's a newspaper in there, all Paddy's fine words as well. So that's all good. Pick up one of those. Enjoy the occasion, because as far as I'm concerned, it's 10 years of a fantastic Norwich City player that we will all be talking about for years to come. So consider yourself lucky enough to have been in a time where you've got to watch him. If you aren't lucky enough to be there, then PinkUn.com is of course the next best place, because we'll have all the build-up, team news, will Wes start? Yes. Analysis, fallout and everything afterwards. We may well get to speak to the great man again, possibly with a Guinness in hand by that point.
That was a nice anecdote, I thought, at the end of the presser today, when normally it's the sports science guys are quick to get the protein shakes into their hands after the game. I think Wes has already told them where to go on that one. The only thing going in his hand is a Guinness, I think.
That will be some interview. We will try and video that one if that happens, definitely. Thanks very much, Pad. Thank you all for getting in touch. We always appreciate it. And we will see you tomorrow over at PinkUn.com. Good night.